everyone, today we're going to be talking about peer review. I'm going to talk to you about what is peer review and also how they conduct peer review, as well as the strengths and weaknesses of doing it. So first of all, a nice 2-mark definition of a peer review would be a process by which psychological research papers are subjected to independent scrutiny by other psychologists who work in a similar field. And this is done before publication, so before it's put into a journal, so that research can be considered in terms of its validity, significance, and originality, and so that all research that is published is of a high quality. So there's lots to unpick here, but the idea of a peer review is to make sure that we've created our own experiment, or that we've used maybe secondary data, that's fine, but we've explained that it's secondary data. Any data that we've collected is valid or accurate data, and it has significance and importance within human behaviour. It's something that is relevant to research and relevant to moving forward psychology. So how we conduct a peer review. Normally there's a number of reviewers, so a number of people who are people within the field of interest. So if you were doing something on cognitive psychology and memory, you would have people reviewing your journal that are cognitive psychologists and are interested in the field of memory, so that they can both judge exactly the content and the validity of the design of the experiment, as well as checking generally that this is a significant piece of research. They are employed by the journal editors, so like the Journal of Nature, the Journal of Cognitive Neuropsychology, for example. And their job is to check for the validity, the significance, and to make sure that we all understand exactly like whether this is a objective piece of research. And they check for all of those things, and then they recommend one of 3 things. Either, yes, it should be published, they accept it unconditionally, and they say, yes, this is fine, you can put it in your journal. They might say, we accept it, but there are some minor improvements that you need to make. Or they say they reject it, and they say you can resubmit it, but you're going to have to make major changes to this. Or they can just say, no, sorry, it's not for us, we don't want it. And normally this occurs in a single blind review. So this means that the names of the reviewers are not being revealed to the researcher. So that means that the reviewers, they don't, like the researcher who submitted it doesn't know who's reviewed their paper. And this is intended to lead to anonymity, but because the reviewers do know who the researcher is, sometimes this can mean that they can be biased because it's in a similar area to them. So obviously they want to be the ones who create and see these create these amazing pieces of research and move the area of psychology on. So it might lead to people who don't like each other just saying, no, I'm rejecting this. So sometimes they do a double blind review where both the researcher and the reviewer don't know who each other are. So peer reviews are particularly important because otherwise it can lead to issues such as this one, which is the controversy around the MMR vaccine, because there was a study published which basically suggested that the MMR vaccine led to developmental disorders in children, specifically autism, and that meant that some people and some parents decided not to vaccinate their child against MMR because of this. Actually, this turned out to be a false report, and actually these findings were not true. And that meant that had a major implication for society because we had lots of unvaccinated children. So there are several reasons why this is important. It's important so that we ensure that the journal has integrity, that actually we are publishing research that is valid and accurate and has a positive implication on society in some way. It can lead to some positive changes being made and a better understanding of human behaviour. It also allows us to prevent false or unscientific research being accepted and then being accepted by society as well as mainstream beliefs, so that we don't get myths passed around about, say, the MMR vaccine and that leading to unvaccinated children, as an example. But there are weaknesses to peer review. It isn't always possible to find an expert in the to review it, because some things are just so niche, no one knows about it. Maybe we haven't found out about that disorder before, so it might be hard, therefore, for somebody else to review the research. We normally have anonymity, but we know that reviewers can be subjective, and therefore that means that they can use that to their advantage to decide whether a piece of research goes through or not. We also might have a publication bias, because the peer review tends to favour the publication of positive results, and it might lead to a preference for research that goes with an existing theory rather than dissenting or unconventional work. Hope that helps.